the idea of writing and wrestling, those words that go back to etymological roots for struggle. To write is literally to scratch, and to wrestle is literally to bend and to tear.
An influx of international guests this week, with multiple events generating significant revenue.
That's because the city's hosting the annual meeting for the UNESCO Cities of Literature, and it's also hosting the Freestyle World Cup Wrestling Tournament.
My name is Andrea Edel. I am coming from Heidelberg in southern Germany.
Reineri Salas Pérez, lucha libre, 97 kilogramos y vine a luchar.
Hi there, I am Ali Bowden, and I am the director of Edinburgh UNESCO City of Literature Trust.
高橋優希 57kg 級です。チームジャパン。
My name is Sadiq Mohammed. I am the executive director of Baghdad City of Literature.
Well, my name is Jaden Cox. I am from Columbia, Missouri, and I wrestled in the University of Missouri. And now we're here at the World Cup trying to win for the first time in a few years. So
I'm joining the meeting of the UNESCO Cities of Literature in Iowa City in 2018, which is a big event, very important for all of us. 28 UNESCO Cities of Literature in the whole world.
It's extremely important for us to get together at least once a year because we need the time and space to integrate, to develop trust and community among all of our peers.
Elbette bir Azərbaycanlı kimi başqa ölkələrdə güləşmək, başqa ölkələrdə ölkəmizi təmsil etmək mənim üçün böyük bir fəxrdir. Xüsusən də Azərbaycan bayrağını qaldırarkən bu daha qürur verici olur və çox sevinirəm ki, ölkəmizi başqa ölkələrdə təmsil edirəm və bayrağımızı dalgalandırıram.
国の代表でこのワールドカップに戦いに来ているので、一つでも多くアメリカはすごく強くて強敵なんですけど、少しでも矢を報いればいいなと思います。
I think to really become a network, and for that to have meaning, you need to sit around a table and look in each other's eyes and talk to each other and find out what they're doing in their city of literature and talk about what you're doing in your city of literature and exchange those projects and ideas to see where there might be potential for future collaboration.
We work a lot together internationally, which means we run global projects that are aimed to serve our local community, our local writers and literary professionals. They aim to develop the local literary industries and to tackle really big global issues.
En este momento estamos en la Copa Mundial, que nos ganamos por derecho en el Campeonato del Mundo, y es más que satisfecho estar representando a mi país.
Y nada, nosotros como país venimos siempre a dar lo mejor de nosotros, que no es un secreto que nosotros tenemos mucha deficiencia económica, tenemos deficiencias que no son, que todo el mundo conoce, ¿no? Y así y todo, nosotros venimos, damos lo mejor de nosotros, tratamos de hacer un buen espectáculo para que el pueblo de Estados Unidos, que es este caso, si es en otro país, lo disfruten y dar un buen espectáculo aquí, subir el nivel a la competencia y así nos preparamos también nosotros.
The idea of being a creative city was, of course, was a device, let's say, of UNESCO. UNESCO feel that this is very much a paradigm for sustainable development in urban areas.
Iowa City is giving us the possibility to do that, and I'm really, really very grateful for this opportunity.
Coming back into Iowa City, everybody knows the reputation of the Iowa Hawkeyes in the black and gold singlet. Being here in Iowa City for the few days, it's increased, spiked our intensity level. It's raised our level of alertness and preparedness. So it's been a great opportunity. Very exciting to be here.
Hey, Chris.
Welcome to the Schamberger.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. When I first came from Iowa State was a huge wrestling university at that particular time. The whole state's been pretty huge for 100 years. So when I came to the University of Iowa, we were pretty much not starting from scratch, but we went from maybe a couple hundred people to an event to all of a sudden we'd have 8,000, 10,000 within a few matter of months or years, a couple years.
The University of Iowa is very visible because of the tradition, you know, dating back to the early 70s, and then in the 80s it was the best. But when you have that tradition, you're a catalyst for the definition of being great.
In Iowa alone, we have museums that honor Iowa wrestling. In Cresco, Iowa, there's a Iowa Wrestling Hall of Fame, little teeny town of Cresco, Iowa. In Waterloo, Iowa, there's a wrestling museum named after myself, the Dan Gable National Wrestling Hall of Fame.
A lot of people associate the University of Iowa with great wrestling, and people that aren't even rabid or even knowledgeable wrestling fans, they know about it. It's a pretty cool thing. It's a pretty cool thing about our community. It is a wrestling community.
I got a statue on this campus of me. I mean, you have to go to find another statue of a wrestler. Well, some of our presidents in the United States have been wrestlers, but they're not known for that.
I remember a story that my youth coach told me where, oh, the Iowa Hawkeyes, they're so good that, you know, their team's #1 right now, and if they put their second string out there on the mat, that team would probably be the second best team out in the nation, you know? And whether that's true or not, I mean, you know, that's how passionate he was, and that's how much he loved the Hawks, and like that whole thing was like, wow. And then when we saw the videos and we saw, you know, I was in high school and stuff like that, watching these older videos from the early 90s. Even though I'm from Pennsylvania, I was immersed with Iowa wrestling because of my coach. So I knew about Pennsylvania wrestling, and then it was like this mystique of like, what are those guys out in Iowa doing? Oh my gosh, you know. Like,
simple answer is geographically, it's centrally located in the United States. It's right in the heart of the Midwest where wrestling culture is the strongest. And Iowa City, you know, did a great thing when they lured Dan Gable here in the 70s, and his reputation precedes him all over the world, and people know that if you're a Gable athlete, you know, they know what that comes with, right? His legacy of intensity and toughness and dedication.
I even called my own guys for stalling. In fact, the statue I have it says stalling. That picture was taken me calling my own guy. And the referee kind of walks over by me and goes, Coach, you calling your own guy? I said, yeah, I know he can wrestle. You just got to get him to wrestle.
Because, you know, I think the essence of a creative writing workshop is we're trying to help the writer identify those places in a new work where they're stalling, where they're, one of the ways I describe it is I say, you know, here's the place where you're treading water. You think you're swimming, but actually you're collecting your breath. And if we can help the writer identify that, then presumably they can push forward. It's interesting that you have all these wrestlers coming from around the world, and now we have representatives of 28 UNESCO cities of literature descending on Iowa City. And I'm remembering that when I approached UNESCO 15 years ago to think about applying for whether we might possibly make our way into this Creative Cities network, I said, would you entertain a dossier from Iowa City? And they replied within minutes. They said, we've been waiting for Iowa City to apply.
Well, where else but Iowa City would the UPS man come to the door and say, something for Dorothy, something for Nathan, and something for Jason, but nothing for the poet? And isn't that the way of the world?
It used to be when you told people you were going to Iowa, they would be like either where is that, or why are you going to Iowa, or I feel sorry for you for going to Iowa.
In part two of that story, where else in Iowa City would the same UPS man show up at the front door a week later, and when Dorothy answers the door, he pulls himself erect and he recites a poem.
And I was thinking, this is a small city, why would the rest of the world wake up? Well, because we have this long tradition, about as long as wrestling, close to 100 years of really great writers coming here to learn to be writers, to teach, to give readings, to give lectures, and that's what makes it such an interesting place to be.
Well, the Iowa Writers Workshop began in 1936. It's the first creative writing program in the United States and still the most famous. It's still considered the best, and it has graduated many very famous and acclaimed writers. And in 1968, the International Writing Program started. It was started by Paul Engel, so it's now 50 years old. And ever since, there have been writers from all over the world here every fall. And Prairie Lights has actually hosted readings with those writers since 1983.
There's always a touch of the great person theory of history when you come to a place like Iowa City. You had to have a Paul Engel here, and you had to have a Dan Gable here. You had to have those visionaries who really saw a relatively small city in the Midwest as what it could be.
Don Justice and I were sitting talking in the Union one day, and we were bemoaning how many of us there were now, how many poets were out there, just too many of us. And Don turned to me and said, Marvin, we're partly responsible for this. And it's true, of course. The Writers' Workshop became something everybody wanted to do. And for years, many of the graduates of the Writers' Workshop went to universities when the universities were still hiring like mad and started MFA writing programs.
The first translation program in this country was devised here at the University of Iowa when a novelist who was also a translator of Greek poetry came here thinking he would teach a fiction workshop. Paul Engel, then the director, said, "Now I want you to teach a translation workshop." And he said, "But what's that?" And Engel said, "Invent it." And so we've done all this translation of literature from different countries, and when we translate a poem by, let's say, a Russian poet or a Chinese poet into English, we are learning how they do what they do. We're internalizing their tricks of the trade. It's the deepest kind of study, and I think that's something like what you're talking about in wrestling.
Absolutely, but I think it kind of depends on who's on the top of the game.
Yeah.
Who wants to study the other side
You only
more.
want to translate the good ones, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting.
With Chris, I sort of had specific questions towards a book that I think I'm writing about Iowa City, and I wanted to situate him, again, sort of as the heir of Paul Engel and how he basically saved the International Writing Program. I don't know if he told you this story, but because of at the end of the Cold War, it was sort of on the chopping block. It had gone through a bunch of different interim directors, and a search was done, a national search for a new director. And as I've discussed with Chris, it was almost as if this was the one job in the world for him. Chris is just a relentless, tireless globetrotter, just is always in one country or another.
The International Writing Program has made Iowa City famous all over the world. Brings poets and fiction writers from all over the world to be in Iowa City for a while. And they make presentations, but meanwhile they get to see what Americans are like and what each other is like, what one another is like, and what one another's culture is like. And, you know, civilization depends on an exchange of ideas, but even more so just finding out what other people and other cultures are like.
We live in a global space. Creative economy in certain countries is the one that contributes towards the economy. So by being exposed to global sphere, they'll be able to increase, you know, the economy of the country and also learn from other people.
You know, I think it goes back to that common experience, right? It unites people. So whether we speak the same language or not, there's an understanding there of a shared life experience.
I'm always fascinated with the idea that anything that any individual believes or holds dear and true can be challenged and tested, and it's best challenged and tested when either you get out and travel or when you have the world come to you.
アメリカの人たちはとてもこうフレンドリーでこうなんか日本とはまた違ったフレンドリーな感じで接してくれるので本当とても居心地がいいと思ってます。アメリカは本当レスリングが大人気じゃないですか。だからとても羨ましくも思います。
Doğrudan da Iowa'nın burada olduğumuz müddətdə buranın qonaqpərvərliyi, yəni bir Azərbaycanda olduğu kimi bizdə də yəni mədəniyyətə, idmana, qonaqpərvərliyə böyük üstünlük verilir. Biz Iowa'da biz onu gördük, dönənləri bizim elə.
Well, I think just having a city like Iowa City that's so welcoming and so diverse, that other countries can come to and feel that diversity and feel that warm welcome. And Iowa's always been a place for me that is safe, is friendly, and is adoring.
De Estados Unidos tenemos bastante conocimiento, pero bueno, esta ciudad es nueva para nosotros y lo que hemos podido apreciar en la ciudad es una ciudad tranquila, una ciudad donde las personas les gusta la actividad del campo y por lo tanto, bueno, eso es algo que es común en nuestro país porque también tenemos lugares donde el campo es algo importante para nosotros.
The idea of becoming a creative city, tell you the truth, came down to us from Iowa City. Iowa City became a creative city before us, and a group of my friends visited the city. They were participating in one of the programs run by the International Writing Program. Iowa is my utopia, tell you the truth. As a writer, I find Iowa a utopia for all writers.
So you could walk down the street in Iowa City and you could pass by a great writer. And you can do the same thing. You could pass by a great wrestler. It's unbelievably humbling.
It's really lovely to be in a place that seems so comfortable with its designation. Whenever we walk around the streets between meetings, we meet people who are just going to get their groceries or pick up their kids from school. And they're asking us, oh, where are you from? What is it that you do? Everyone seems really engaged with reading and with writing. And that's very important. That's the kind of world we want to live in, I think.
Iowa City is a very unique place in the Midwest because of the diversity. And it doesn't matter if it's sport or other things. It's always been a diverse place.
Well, I think I'll say one thing, because I fly out of Cedar Rapids all the time, and I think I'm always surprised at how often it is that I meet people on the planes who are flying to the most distant parts of the world. It's common to say that people living in New York are the most provincial Americans of all. I would say Iowa Cityans are maybe the most cosmopolitan in that sense, because we are in touch with the rest of the world in the same way that the farmers know all about the commodities markets all around the world, and the wrestlers are in pretty much the same place, right?
This weekend, you're proving it, and they're coming in from everywhere, and Mongolia, Cuba, Japan. We got 8 countries, and they're coming. They're coming because it's Iowa City.
Yeah.
They're interested. They're interested in Iowa City, Iowa.
I think as a society we remember that we are human beings. We become more patient with one another. We become more open to differences and ideas. I think that might sound a little bit like a cliche sometimes, but I think patience is one of the biggest things that we can try to develop within ourselves so that we can open our understanding and our hearts to other people. And I think literature is one of the greatest mediums for that. It tells stories, it tells human stories, it tells the narratives that are important for our humanity and helps us to remind each other of the struggles that we face, but also of the joys that we get to experience. And having that common perspective as humans is extremely important, and we're very proud to be cities of literature for that purpose.
I do know that, wrestling and writing go together as far as wrestling is a story, it's a story that you get told. And that own wrestler himself is the writer of his own story, He is the one who held the pen, and he's making sure that he's ran the stairs and doing everything like that. He knows, he's written it all, he's put it out there, and then you get to watch the fruit of his labor. You get to see it in fruition and play out. I think like wrestling in itself, even though you never write anything down or you're not literally writing page by page, but you get to see the story that he's written, and he's expressing it to you that whole time, every time he's on the mat. And so that's something you get to witness and you get to experience. And I think that's pretty cool.